Hey friends, it's Mel, and welcome back to my kitchen. Welcome back to another What's for Dinner. This one may be a little bit different. You might see some things you've seen before, and you might see a couple new things. This week I had what I call a staycation. My daughter was out of school for fall break, but my husband was on call. So I just took the week off, and me and my daughter hang out together. We ran around, we stayed home, we laughed, we cried, we had a great time. And I still did some cooking, but I took it pretty easy on myself. So tonight, as the weekend draws to a close, you can just sit back, relax, grab that sweet tea, and let me do the cooking. The first night of the week, we had some chicken bacon ranch sliders. This is something that my family loves, and it's so easy. Stephanie, here comes my big sharp knife, just for you. Look how I sliced through these things this week. I know you all get a little nervous with my subpar knife skills. I scare myself on here when I watch it back too. But the first thing you do with these sliders is take your buns and you have to slice the top off of them. If you have the little slider buns that are already split, that makes it a little bit easier, but I do love the flavor of these Hawaiian rolls. Once you get them cut through, you just take the top off and set it to the side. Now in a saucepan, I've got 1 stick of butter that I'm going to melt down, and then you're going to add a few things into that. It calls for some chives, which I did not have, and garlic salt, but I just used some Italian seasoning and some Lowry seasoning salt. And I did put in some garlic powder and onion powder. I will have the original recipes for anything I have linked down below or typed out below for you. A lot of times I just use what I have, may throw something different in than what's in the recipe. You're just going to mix all that into your melted butter and get it nice and hot. You can see all that seasoning's incorporated really nice into that. Then I'm just taking a brush, and you just take some of that melted butter and seasoning mixture and spread it across the bottom of your buns. Then I'm using Colby Jack cheese. I'm going to put down a layer of that. If you had shredded cheese, that works fine as well. And you can mix these up. This is a chicken bacon ranch, but you know there's a million different combinations of slider recipes out there. I'm using some rotisserie seasoned chicken breast that I got at Aldi. It was a pound package. I didn't use quite the whole package. I had a little bit left over, but I thought this was plenty enough. Then I'm coming in with some crumbled bacon pieces, spreading a little bit of that over the top. Just go as heavy or as light as you want to with it. Then you're going to take 1/3 of a cup of ranch dressing and drizzle that across the top, and then I do try to spread it out just a little bit. And then you're going to take another layer of cheese. And what really takes this over the top is coming in with your butter one more time in the middle of your sandwich here. Go over your layer of cheese. That's why I like to use the sliced cheese in this one, because it really, you can really get the butter over that nice and easily. Then you're going to put the top back over them and use whatever butter you have left brush it across the top, pour it, and spread it out the best you can. Then you're going to come over the top with some of the shredded Parmesan cheese, the green kind in a can. Then you're just going to cover it loosely. You don't want it too tight, and you're going to cook it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes with the aluminum foil over the top. Then you're going to take the aluminum foil off and cook it about another 10 minutes uncovered. I let mine go maybe just a smidge too long. They still tasted good, but the tops were just a little bit more brown than what I normally make them. So just keep a real close eye on them in your oven. But you can see how nice and melted that cheese is. This is one of my family's favorite treats. And I do love this chicken bacon ranch variety of sliders. I believe this was Monday night, and my theme for this week, anytime anybody asks me to do anything, I just said, I'm on vacation. The next day, I'm making the Crockpot Olive Garden creamy chicken pasta. This is a very easy and very flavorful Crockpot dish. Sometimes it's hard to get a good season on things in the Crockpot, but this is not one of those dishes. And I just start out spraying my Crockpot with some nonstick cooking spray, and then I put in about 3 frozen chicken breasts, and you're going to use a whole 16-ounce bottle of the Olive Garden dressing. This was Aldi's brand of that, and it's really good. Do not forget and put in a can of cream and chicken soup. In the recipe that I have pinned, it does not have the cream and chicken soup, but it makes all the difference in the texture and the flavor of this little dish right here. So don't forget to add you a can of cream and chicken soup. Then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of garlic. I do not put any salt in this recipe because it's salty enough with this dressing, but I do throw in maybe half a teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm going to use about a half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, not the kind in the can, but the actual shredded cheese. I'm going to mix it up a little bit, get my pepper and my soup and cheese and dressings all mixed in a little bit. And then I'm going to put an 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And I cooked this on high for about 3 hours. You could also cook it on low from 5 to 6 hours. Once I come back in and check it, when we get back home, I'm just taking my little meat chopper tool and going in, and my chicken was just falling apart. It was perfectly done, so I'm just shredding it up with that little chopping tool, and then I will mix it up real good to get all that cream cheese combined. If you want to, you can cut your cream cheese up and put it in smaller cubes. Cream cheese, you just have to mix it. I mean, however you want to do it. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference, but you're just going to mix it all up really good, and I've got it cut down on low and just letting it sit there while I'm cooking a 16-ounce box of penne pasta. And all of these meals that I'm making this week, these are meals that I would definitely make if I were actually on vacation with my family somewhere. We do the beach usually once a year. We didn't go last year. We haven't been this year with all that's going on, but we do a lot of meals like this when we're on vacation. We may eat out a night or two, but we enjoy just spending the time together. And these are meals that are easy and quick and fun to do. You're not in the kitchen with a bunch of prep or a bunch of cleanup. Once your pasta's done, you're going to drain it off really good. Of course, you're not going to rinse it. You want it to stay hot, and then you're just going to mix it in to your chicken and dressing mixture that's in the crock pot. This is so delicious. We ate this 2 nights for dinner, and we ate some leftovers for lunch too. Serve this up with a nice big tossed salad and the breadsticks, and I do put a little bit of crumbled bacon over the top of it. It makes it pretty, and it just gives it another little added something. Now the next night, I'm pulling out my Aldi red bag chicken. Just going to cook that up according to the package directions. And we're going to have some chicken sandwiches. And I had saved my leftover mashed potatoes to make some tater cakes. So the first thing I'm doing is just taking me a green onion and chopping it up nice and little. I love the taste of green onions in my potato cakes, but if you just have a regular white onion or Vidalia onion, that's fine in them too. So I've probably got maybe 1.5 cups, maybe 2 cups of leftover mashed potatoes, and these were instant mashed potatoes, but I had doctored them up with some milk and butter. And into mine, I'm going to throw in some cheese, and this cheese was frozen. I didn't realize that I did not have any shredded cheese in the fridge, so I'm working with what I got here. And I'm putting in 1 egg. And I will put in some salt and pepper and this green onion. These instant mashed potatoes, I had actually doctored them up with some milk and a lot of cream cheese and butter, so they weren't as good and stiff if they were just not doctored up. So I had to add some flour to it, and this is just kind of one of those things you want them to get nice and stiff. So I can't really tell you an amount of flour to put in. I felt like I put an awful lot in them, and then after I did the first 3, they didn't really puff up like I like them. They really absorbed a lot of the oil in the skillet, so I went back and put even more flour in them. But basically, you just need to stir flour in them until they get good and stiff. Sometimes I'll just make up instant mashed potatoes and just not put anything in them, and I'll just stick them back in the fridge just to make potato cakes with, because they make the best ones. Basically, I just have some olive oil heated up in my skillet here, and you just drop them by the spoonfuls in there, and you don't touch them. You just let them sit, and then once that side gets browned up, then you're going to flip them, and then I'll kind of squash them down. But you don't want to mess with them a whole lot, because you know you want to let them set and get a crisp on the bottom of them. And look how pretty they're frying up. Even these, like I said, these first 3, they didn't fluff up as well as what I like them to, and they absorbed a lot of oil, but they were still delicious. There's nothing that I love any more than a potato cake. You can see here where these look a little bit stiffer. I put some more flour in them. I'll link you another video in my description box and in the cards here where I made potato cakes. I had a lot of fun with that video because I'm serious about potato cakes. I mean, there is not anything on this earth that I think tastes as good as a tater cake. I love them. I love making them. I love frying them. I just love them. I love everything about them. I think that's the only reason that I make mashed potatoes half the time, is because I want them left over to fry potato cakes. You can eat these by themselves. We're going to eat them as a side tonight. You can throw these things on in between 2 pieces of light bread with some mayonnaise and have a tater cake sandwich. They're just such a wonderful little treat. And you can see how those like puffed up a little bit more than the first batch, and they were just perfect. And I prefer my potato cakes just plain. I don't want any ketchup. I don't want any ranch dressing or anything on mine. But I did fix them up for my husband. I fixed his up with a little sour cream and some of the green onion over the top. I think one of my daughters eats ketchup on hers and the other one eats ranch dressing. But look how beautiful they are. The cheese and those green onions, it's just all so good in there. And if you have leftover corn, I think I've showed that before on here, you can throw a little corn in these, and that's good too. Now the next night we're gonna make us some little homemade Naan flatbread pizzas, and I'm doing these two ways. I think I've shown this before on my channel as well. I just about start every meal by chopping up a Vidalia onion or a green onion. That is my custom, I guess. This was some chicken that I had in the freezer where I had cooked up some in the crock pot, cooked up a big batch of chicken and had some left over, and I just froze it, pulled it out, defrosted it, and I'm just adding some barbecue sauce in it. My husband had been out on hard call this night and he was just getting in from work, so I wanted to get him a nice big hot pizza made up before we even just kind of played around putting ours together, me and the girls. Now I take another barbecue sauce, and it's one of our favorites. It's a little bit more pricey, but I will take that and use it as the pizza base. Just spread it out really nice. Then I'll come over it with some mozzarella cheese. And I'm using all of that chicken that I've mixed the barbecue sauce in. I'm just doing the whole top of his pizza covered in that. And my husband's a big eater, but even he could only eat about half of this pizza right here. I'm going to come over it again with just a little bit more mozzarella cheese, just to kind of hold everything in place. Then I'm going to put him some crumbled up bacon on there and some green onions. And these I bake at 425 for just about 4 or 5 minutes, and I do pre-bake my crust as well. I don't think I told you that or showed you that, but I will throw my crust in the oven for just about 4 minutes on 400 to 425 and let it pre-bake just a little bit before I build the pizza. And look at that. That pizza was so good. That was the barbecue chicken with bacon and green onion. And that was a great little pizza right there. Now me and Maddie are going to put our little pizzas together. And I've pre-baked our crust, and we're just going traditional style. We got some pasta sauce going down. Then we're going in with the mozzarella cheese. We used up one bag and we're coming in with another. We want to cover those really well. Maddie's given us a real generous helping of pepperonis. Then a little bit more cheese over the top. I like a little Italian seasoning sprinkled on mine, but Maddie would just rather have hers plain, so we didn't put any on hers. Fixed us up a salad to go on the side of this and baked these up just 5 or 6 minutes. This is fun and quick and easy, and I'm just using a bag salad mix too. I mean, I seriously did take a vacation this week from cooking, but we still ate really well. Look at those yummy pizzas. I would rather have this than even my favorite delivery, I believe. This was another good night of eating, and we had some leftovers of that for lunch as well. And if you remember last week's What's for Dinner, I made that Dorito casserole and I had some extra filling that I froze. So here I'm showing you how I thaw that out. I just filled my sink up with some warm water, not really hot, just a little warm, and it will help that get loosened up and thawed out in your freezer bag. And I'm going to make us some enchilada stuffed shells. This was a great way to use up these leftover filling that was in that Dorito casserole. I had about half of a box of these jumbo shells in my pantry, so I just boiled them up al dente. And then once I got my filling that was frozen, got it thawed out, I put it over in a saucepan and got it heated up too. And I'm just taking my little pie plate here, I've sprayed it, and then I'm putting down some enchilada sauce. And I am just stuffing my shells with that Dorito casserole filling. And I'm just going to get as many as I can. And I just filled that pie plate right up. Then I'm going to take some more of that red enchilada sauce and pour it over the top. You do want to try to make sure you get your shells, pretty much covered. You don't want anything that's going to be like sticking up and not covered will tend to bake up and get real hard. So you do want to make sure you touch everything you can with the sauce. And then I'm definitely putting on too much cheese. I wished I had had a nice Colby Jack here, but I just didn't. I used cheddar. And I'm baking that up for 15 minutes at 400 degrees. And it was perfect. That's perfect timing and perfect temperature. Melted that cheese down perfectly. And this was so delicious. This was a wonderful use of leftovers. This was Friday night. My husband was wore smack out. That was his last day of work, and he was off call now. You see his hand, he can't even wait. He's hungry. But that was just a nice Friday night dinner. You didn't want to go out anywhere after a long week, and I sure wasn't cooking. And we just thoroughly enjoyed this little dish that we made up out of leftovers. There's that Mateo salsa. I'm loving that stuff. This was a yummy little spur of the moment meal. And now I'm going to make you some seasoned oyster crackers. This was something me and Maddie had been wanting this week, and it's so simple and easy to do. Now, as you can see, we have been in our oyster crackers. So we started out thinking we would just use half of what you needed for this recipe. And of course, I will have this typed out for you below, the full recipe. But it takes a half a cup of olive oil, and we started with 1/4 cup, and we were just going to use 1 tablespoon of this Italian dressing seasoning. And then 1 tablespoon of the ranch dressing seasoning. And we used about 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now once Maddie got to mixing that and we looked at it. She said, "I don't think it's enough, Mom." And I didn't think it was enough either. So we went ahead and we put the rest of the seasonings and the rest of the oil that it called for in it, and it was perfect. This is a great little snack just to have around anytime. It's great for the holidays, but it's just good to have around anytime. She's just going to finish whisking that up for us. And then you just toss in your oyster crackers. In this big bowl I have a lid for, so I just put the lid on it and I'll just kind of shake them around gently in there and turn it upside down a little bit and let them get coated. And then I'll come back in with a big wooden spoon and toss them very gently, just to coat everything. Then I take one of the biggest baking sheets that I have, and I do line it with parchment paper. It just helps with the cleanup. Even though I'm getting off of it some, it still helps. And you just want to spread them out in an even layer to the best of your ability. And you're going to cook them very low, 250 degrees. I cooked them for 10 minutes. And then I took them out and stirred them. And then I put them back in for another 10 minutes. It's a lot like making nuts and bolts. You'll know when they're done whenever your crackers start looking dried. The oil is baked out of it and the seasons, you can see that it's not wet anymore. And they get just a little bit of color to them. And I just let them lay there for a good little bit until they get completely dry, and then I'll put them over into a little bowl for storage. And I do try to shake off any of the extra seasonings with like a slotted spatula and just kind of shake them through my hands so I don't have all that extra seasoning just kind of sticking to everything in my bowl. But this was a yummy little snack. Guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me tonight so much. I hope that you've enjoyed these easy, quick staycation meals. Hopefully you've got some ideas of some new quick and easy meals to make. I know these are not anything that's mind-blowing or earth-shattering, but this is what we ate this week, and we loved every bit of it. I thank you so much for watching. I thank you for all the sweet comments. If you've not commented before, please take an opportunity this week and introduce yourself in the comments. I do love getting to know all of you. Guys, I appreciate you, and I'll see you Wednesday night. Until then, I send you love from my kitchen.